These animals were all once endangered but are now doing well. The white rhinoceros, Ceratotherium cymum, that's a scientific name. It's found in eastern and southern Africa. Only around 20 survived at the end of the 19th century. Now there are around 17,500. That is really good news. So some other organisms that have rebounded are the Antarctic fur seal, Arctocephalus gazella, that's a scientific name. It's found in cold parts of the ocean in the southern hemisphere. It was nearly extinct at the end of the 19th century. Now 4 to 6 million are in existence. That's awesome. Almost all of them breed on South Georgia and the Atlantic Ocean. Then you have Vicuña, Vicugna. It's found in the Andes Mountains in South America. It was reduced to a few thousand in the 1960s. Now there are around 350,000. It's good to hear. Bison are actually quite easy animals to look after. As long as you don't hunt them and make sure they've got a reasonable amount of space, they pretty much take care of themselves. Not all endangered species are like that, though. Some you can't take your eye off for a minute. The kakapo is one of these. Kakapos are amazing birds that live in New Zealand. They are huge, dumpy parrots that can't fly and come out only at night. They live as long as people do. They're fussy about what they eat, like a lot of people, and they usually only breed once every 3 or 4 years, when their favorite trees produce a bumper crop of fruit and seeds. Some information on the kakapo. Strigos habropatila, that's the scientific name, found in New Zealand. It weighs up to 9 pounds, measures up to 24 inches long, that's 2 feet. Lifespan probably more than 60 years. Its habits: lives in woodland and grassland, feeds at night, doesn't fly but sort of jogs along. The female lays up to 3 eggs at a time. Only the mother looks after the chicks when they hatch. Chicks stay on the nest until they are 10 to 12 weeks old. They eat fruit, seeds, flowers, plants, shoots, and sap from trees. Number left, 124 at the last count. Boy, that's not very. Here are some illustrations of the kakapo in action. And I want to add that this book is, in fact, just filled with illustrations. Now, illustration, if you recall, is a drawing. So these are just beautiful drawings of these animals we've been studying in our read aloud this week. The trouble is that because kakapos can't fly, they are easy prey for animals like rats, dogs, cats, and stoats that like to eat them or their eggs. Before people arrived on New Zealand, there were none of these predators there and lots of kakapos. Then, about 1,500 years ago, people started coming, bringing these animals with them, some by accident, like rats, and some on purpose, like dogs and later cats and stoats. The kakapos got rarer and rarer. At one point, people thought they might be extinct. Then a handful were discovered in the far south, but there were cats and stoats there too, and every year there were fewer kakapos. Conservationists decided to catch as many of the survivors as possible and put them on small islands out of reach of predators. That worked, but unfortunately the kakapos hardly ever bred. Most were dying of old age and in accidents, then were hatching out. By 1995, there were just 51 alive in the world. Boy, that's scary. Since then, people have redoubled their efforts to try to save the kakapo. They guard the islands to make sure no predators arrive. They put collars with radio transmitters on the kakapos to keep track of them. They've given them extra food to try to persuade them to breed, and when they do breed, they keep an eye on the nest using remote-controlled cameras. They even put heaters over the nest to make sure the eggs or chicks don't get too cold when their mother is off feeding at night. It's all working, and very, very slowly the number of kakapos is growing. By 2010, there were over 120 kakapos, still hardly any, but more than 51. Here you see a cat that someone brought to the island stalking the kakapos. These are some of the animals that have been brought back from the brink of extinction but are still very rare. The Rodriguez flying fox, Pteropus rodriguensis, a scientific name. It's found on the Rodriguez Island in the Indian Ocean. Number left. In 1979, only about 70 survived. The population reached about 5,000 in 2002, but went down to 4,000 or so in 2003 when a cyclone hit Rodriguez. The whooping crane, Grus americana, were found in North America. Number left. In 1938, only 15 adult birds survived. By the end of 2007, there were 382 birds in the wild and 148 in zoos. And finally, we have the Bermuda petrel, Pterodrama caho. Where found? Bermuda. Number left, thought extinct for 300 years, but rediscovered in the 1950s, breeding on small islands. Numbers have gone up from 18 pairs in 1951 to around 250 birds now. So that's good news. So you see, trying to save just one endangered species like the kakapo can be hard work, and there are thousands of them altogether. What's more, saving species is going to get more complicated. We haven't just changed the world in obvious ways, like cutting down forests and building roads. We're changing the climate too, and that affects everything, everywhere. Because of climate change, places like the Arctic that haven't been affected very much by people up till now are starting to change fast. And that means that some animals that we thought were safe, like polar bears, are now in trouble. When it comes to looking after all the species that are already endangered, there's such a lot to do that sometimes it might all seem to be too much, especially when there are so many other important things to worry about. But if we stop trying, the chances are that pretty soon we'll end up with a world where there are no tigers or elephants or sawfishes or whooping cranes or albatrosses or ground iguanas. And I think that would be a shame. Don't you? This last creature, as you know, is the polar bear, the Ursus maritimus. It's found in the Arctic regions of Canada, Greenland, Norway, the Russian Federation, and the United States. Number left, 20,000 to 25,000. Guys, what a great book. And this ties into the things we've talked about with Wangari Maathai and Jane Goodall. It directly connects to the work they have tried to do in their lifetime. So wonderful connections, guys. And it's up to you moving forward to make a difference in our world. So I know you'll do it. Good luck.